Hello, everyone. Welcome to the No Good Podcast. We are joined by a legend in his own right, one of the pioneers of the UFC, Frank Shamrock, who has won numerous titles in other martial arts organizations, including the Interim King of Pancrase title, the WEC Light Heavyweight Championship, and the Strikeforce Middleweight Championship, and remains the only athlete in history to hold titles in every major sports league. First of all, Frank, how you doing? I hope you're safe out there with all the COVID stuff that's going on. Hope everything's going well.
Yeah, staying safe. We're been blessed to be healthy, and it's always sunny in California, Southern California, so we are enjoying some nice outdoor time.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, nice. Yeah. Hey, maybe someday I'll get that nice California sun as well. You know what I mean? But I guess we'll just jump into the conversation with something just generic and maybe just something to open up the conversation. You've had a long career. What accomplishment are you the most proud of in that long career?
Wow. I'd have to say it's teaching martial arts and being a spokesman for martial arts and mixed martial arts. Once I realized that being the greatest fighter in the world and being the first, mixed martial artist really wasn't enough. I became a spokesman, and it was through the teaching that I was able to kind of articulate and sort of, build that confidence to, present the sport. But it was also that next level of getting out and, teaching basically and telling people what the sport was really about, which is about martial arts and personal development and, right, really finding yourself through something.
Now you've had an incredible career, a historic career, some would say, and you fought a lot of legends. What do you think of the legends that you fought? Who do you think was your toughest opponent and why?
Wow.
I know I'm hitting you with the tough questions.
Yeah, no, it's good though. It's good. There was really three pivotal, matches in my career. First one was Enson Inoue. And that was the first time where I honestly thought I was going to, die in the ring. Mm-hmm. And that was a huge psychological burden to sort of step through. Mm-hmm. And then I would say the second one was fighting Tito Ortiz, because he was just, he was like 35 pounds heavier than I was. And besides the fight itself, which was really, really tough, the, my whole strategy behind that was to beat him and then be the champion and then retire and become a free agent. And so there was a lot of risk in that fight. So besides the physical exertion needed, also the back end of that was really tough. And then the final one was fighting Phil Baroni. And while he wasn't probably the toughest guy in the world, on that night, he was one of my toughest physical opponents because I'd blown out my knee and, mm-hmm. We were on the edge of getting on CBS, and there was a lot of, at that time I was a league owner, I was a spokesman. So there was a lot on the line on that night. And so to overcome that, physical injury and to still be able to perform really well and sort of cement, Strikeforce and being that premier league and opening the door for network television. Those are the things that, that I remember that are highlights and that are the toughest fights in my career.
Wow. That's awesome. I wanted to ask you about a specific fight. During the Boz Rutan fight, there was a period where you had him in a leg lock and were taunting him while he was striking. Yeah. Now, I wanted to ask you just what was going on and what were you thinking in that moment? Was it strategic? Were you trying to rile him up? Or
it was totally strategic. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was one of my lesser successful strategies because he actually cut me with that. Yeah. But yeah, Boss was my first professional fight. And then we went on to fight 2 more times. So we had 3 fights total. But after our very first fight, we became really close friends. Mm-hmm. And it was through that friendship that I learned Boss is a very sensitive guy. And so he doesn't like to be made fun of. He doesn't like to be teased. And at that stage of the fight, I was getting tired. I realized I probably couldn't submit him. Mm-hmm. So I was looking for another strategy. And my strategy was to make fun of him until he punched me in the face, at which point he would lose a point. And then hopefully I could eke out the victory. But I actually wasn't successful.
Nice. I got to ask you, if you were in your prime today, who would give you the toughest challenge when it comes to a fight and why?
Oh, wow. I always thought about matching up with Jon Jones. It's a middleweight, even though, that size now is light heavyweight or above.
Yeah.
Because of his length, because of his skill set, because of his physical ability, I just thought he would be a huge challenge for me. And to be honest with you, I've never, even figured out a way to beat him. But if there was, if there was a redo and I was 25 years old again, that's a fight I'd like to try to handle.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So what is the most important attribute needed in order to be a successful MMA fighter?
I think it's mindset and psychology, and because you really, it's a very lonely sort of, single person journey. You have a team and you have, your trainers and stuff. But at the end of the day, it's you, it's you performing. It's not like you got, on a football team. So it's very much in your hands to become successful or not. So I would say the mindset is the most important thing.
As you see, like there's a lot of fighters now that have crazy unbeaten records and everything. I wanted to ask you, who, in your opinion, was the best pound for pound fighter currently?
Currently,
Yeah.
I'd have to say it's Nurmagomedov. I mean, he's just with his understanding of the game, his mindset, and sort of his focus, and then he's in the right camp, with AKA and Javier Mendez. He's in the right knowledge base. And like I said, when it comes down to mindset, if you can get the right trainers and the right group around you, a guy with that type of skills and that type of focus, I think right now he's pretty much unbeatable.
Okay. How would you describe your relationship with your brother Ken Shamrock is now?
It's good. I mean, we were never really close. He was my first trainer and teacher and mentor in martial arts. But we never really got, a deep bond. And then through, us both being in a competitive area and sort of being on the other side of the fence. I mean, for years we were trying to fight each other.
Yeah.
Both, I think both to, understand each other better, but also to compete against one another. So I think that, that journey sort of drove us apart. But now, now we're friends. I have to say, I don't get Christmas cards from him or anything like that.
Now, another guy I wanted to talk about was Dana White in the past years. He hasn't been someone who has given you much credit despite your accolades and being one of the biggest pioneers of the sport. Why do you think that your relationship with Dana went south, and what do you think was the catalyst for it?
Well, the initial catalyst was when I was the, largest or most popular fighter in the sport. I told him no. When they bought the UFC and they showed me their, marketing model and plan, it just didn't make sense, and it didn't make sense for me as a free agent and as an athlete. So, I told him no, and that sort of, started it.
Yeah,
and
seems
then
like something is like.
yeah, he didn't like to hear no.
Yeah.
And then, as my career progressed, I really became a spokesman and also a league owner. So I was a direct competitor to the UFC, and they don't like competition. So it just got deeper and deeper.
So I wanted to talk a little bit less about fighting now, and we want to talk about, at the age of 11, you said that you learned that crime was an amazing tool to escape a problem. How tough was it for you to escape this mentality at such a young age? And what do you think helped you most in growing and becoming successful now?
Well, the biggest thing that helped me was going to prison. I mean, it was, I didn't realize until I was in prison, and I realized I wasn't going to get out. And then I also saw all the other kids that I was running with on the streets. They were in prison with me. And I realized that, it wasn't a good tool. It kind of lucked into it, if you can call it that. And I just changed my mindset. My mindset was I had a family. I wanted to be successful. I wanted to be successful at something. And it was only through sort of that, I did 3.5 years of personal reflection, which is a lot of time to kind of be a monk. And it was during that time where I realized, like, oh, I screwed my whole life up, but I still had a chance to change it. And luckily, mixed martial arts was very young at the time. And I had a mentor, Bob Shamrock, who encourages me to, build my body, build my mind, build my spirit, and something would come along, that I could apply this to. And that was mixed martial arts.
Okay. And as your childhood, you would say it was a bit troubled. How do you approach parenting your own children? What are your thoughts on the importance of good parenting?
Well, it's super important. I mean, it's the biggest job that you
Mm.
can do in your lifetime, in my opinion. And for me, I use the principles that Bob Shamrock taught me, which is to be honest, be present, be a good role model, a good leader, and stick by your word. So, I have a 12-year-old daughter, and I like to think I'm a very present, probably crazy super dad, but she's also the future generation. And my generation and the generation before me went through a lot of trauma, went through a lot of social issues. And my goal is to make sure she doesn't have to go through those things.
Uh, Frank, you mentioned the idea of building your body and building your spirit. And I wanted to ask you in general, how important is meditation in keeping your mind right? And how do you incorporate it into your own personal life?
Sure. Well, I meditate twice a day, in the morning and at night. And the thing most people don't realize is your brain's like a computer. So when you take the time to meditate, when you take the time to be mindful or present, you're actually rewiring or wiring your brain to how you want it to be. Right. And a lot of people are just kind of running around, chasing their tail, chasing the next thing, the next business, next pretty girl, the next whatever. But for me, I started in prison. 3.5 years, sit around, meditate, learn about myself. And I think it's super important. A lot of people talk about your body being a temple, but really your mind is the temple. And whatever you put in there, whatever you consume, whatever you digest, whatever you watch, that's who you'll become. So through meditation, you can get closer to that. And meditation and visualization, in my opinion, go hand in hand. Because once you calm your mind to a place of where you want to be, then you can really visualize what you want to become.
I've heard vocalization is a key element in all that as well. Speaking things into existence and manifesting kind of the energy to make it happen. But yeah, I agree with you. I agree.
Do you use any specific app or anything for meditating?
I don't really. I've got this one called Nature Sounds. And it's actually free on the App Store, but it has both meditation sounds in it, and then it also just has nature sounds. And so a lot of times I'll do my meditation to, running water or the ocean or even birds. But that kind of sub-track helps relax your brain. The hardest thing for people to do when they step into meditation is to relax their active mind and relax their conscious mind. So those tools, I recommend, being in a quiet place, being in a dark place, being in a warm place is also very nice. But anything to kind of take those layers off your consciousness so you can get closer, to where your subconscious is, to where your brain is, wanting to release and relax.
Okay. As someone who strives for personal excellence and development, we see that a lot of successful people, they have this sort of routine. Can you talk me through what your daily routine is like?
For sure. Yeah. Get up every day about 7:30. If I have my daughter, then I prepare her for school and I make breakfast. Before I climb out of bed, I meditate and I pray, and then I plan my entire day. And really, that's only 3 items. But life gets in the way of those 3 items, those 3 things, buckets of life that I want to be doing. And then every day I exercise. Every day I get out in nature, even if it's just for a short walk or a long walk. Walking is one of the best things you can do for your mind. And, even meditation, a lot of people meditate while they walk. They don't even know they're doing it. But they get out, they relax their mind, they connect with their body. And then every day, I work on my spirit, which for me is either helping people or mentoring. A mentor gave me this life and has, I've put mentors all throughout my life. So I make sure that I give back in that way. And then I close every evening with meditation and prayer. And then usually when I have my daughter, it's storytelling at night. And all those stories, have an important lesson in them. So it's very much like Native American or island style, where you pass on this sort of social knowledge and, how to be and act and what to do through storytelling. So I find that to be a big, uplift to my spirit at the end of the day, that I'm able to take these little stories. And I have to think about them now because she's heard every story under the sun. Every story begins in Japan. Every story begins in prison. So now that she's older, I have to be a lot more creative in that storytelling. And it forces my mind to think. It forces my spirit to sort of be present as I deliver those lessons. But that to me is almost every day.
Well, I mean, a big aspect of storytelling is the professional speaking aspect of it, and I think that's something that you exceed in and excel in. I guess I'll ask you this: how and why did you make the transition into becoming a sought after professional speaker?
Sure. Well, funny enough, speaking and public speaking and vocalizing, as you mentioned earlier, were the hardest things for me to do. As a child of abuse and as a child with emotional issues from that abuse, I didn't know how to vocalize what was important to me. And when I found mixed martial arts, I realized this was super important to me to share with everybody. And now that I've, when people say, what's your biggest accolade in life? I said, well, it's convincing America that cage fighting was a good idea. Not actually the best idea, but the preparation for it, the training for it, the journey you take through martial arts is a fantastic idea to help guide your life. And so once I kind of finished that process, I realized I had so much more to share. And I realized that these stories that most people keep inside, most people don't talk about going to prison. And when I go to a college and I tell them, oh yeah, I went to college in prison, it just blows their mind because they don't understand how these things could be possible in this world. But it's through speaking that I've been able to open just a lot of people's minds on what's possible, both within themselves. And then when you bring, a group together, a community, a team, whatever tribe, whatever that, universal power is between connecting people, that's one of the skills I have. And it came from martial arts, guiding teams.
Wow, that's incredible, man. So, I mean, for the listeners who may not know, can you explain your plus, equal, minus system for them? I mean, it's probably in depth,
for
but
sure. Yeah. No, it's fantastic system I use every day of my life, and it's really about finding your plus. That's sort of the first step. And for me, the pluses were people who knew how to fight, who knew how to do martial arts, but finding your plus, somebody who has what you've always wanted or who's living the life you live, that's essential for you to becoming successful. Right. And then once you've found your plus and you have a mentor, a guider, a leader, a teacher, teachers, your teacher in school is a plus. They have the knowledge that you're looking for. So they'll guide you to the place that you want to go. And then your equals is people just like you, people that are competing for the information or competing in your space, business, whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. I go out and I find all my equals. So I know all the speakers, I know everybody,
Nice.
All the thought leaders in my space. Right. And then you have a choice. You can befriend them or you can, push them away. Right. But when you befriend them and you bring them together, then you have all this strength and knowledge. You know what's going on in your space. You know what's going on in your industry. And then the last and the most important is your minus. And that minus is the person you give the knowledge to. Right. It's the person that you mentor. So it's plus, equals, minus. So find your equal, find your minus. And the beauty of it is that minus is the most important person in the equation. Right. Everyone thinks it's the plus. Everyone wants to be the plus. But it's really about what you can do for that minus. Because if you bring them up to be a plus, they'll do the exact same cycle again. Right. And it's just this powerful, thought that helps bring communities together, helps people develop and achieve their dreams.
Wow. It definitely is very powerful. Just the whole process of how you explained it very much in detail. Yeah. That was great. I just want to ask you, in your words, what does it mean to be a warrior?
Well, being a warrior for me means that you step forward in life. A lot of people step backwards. A lot of people say no. A lot of people, fail and then they go, well, that's it. Or a lot of people reach a certain level and they just give up or they, become satisfied with that. But for me, we're all warriors. We grew up being warriors. We didn't just get this civilized by hanging out. And so for me, being a warrior is taking that step forward and taking a chance, taking a risk. And it's a risk to approach your plus and say, hey, what do I got to do to get the information? Do I got to mop floors? Do I got to, what do I need to do to get where I want to be? So, the plus equals minus is really part of the warrior's code. You need something like this to help guide you to take steps forward. because organically as beings, we like to chill and sit back once we've reached a certain status. But, the strongest person in our community is the warrior inside of you. And when you can bring that person forward, you'll achieve your dreams. That's the easy part. But keeping that growing and keeping that that system working and bringing people up with you, that's the fun and the hard part.
Wow. Okay. Now our listeners wouldn't be happy unless I asked you this question, but what artists and what songs are in Frank Shamrock's playlist? Like, what are you listening to?
Wow. So I'm not like a musically attached person.
Okay.
So I literally, I go from reggae to gospel to country to rap to me, whatever my mood is, whatever I'm feeling that day, that's what I search for and I play.
You see no bounds. You see no bounds.
Yeah, to me, because I'm not sure if it's just me, but music affects me a certain way. So when I have that mood and I'm like, oh, we're at the beach, let's play some reggae. We're camping, let's play some country music. Like there's a whole vibe to me, and any music works for me. I got no attachments.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Cool. Well, to end of the discussion on a higher note, I have to ask you, you're into cannabis and you're a known advocate of it. What are your thoughts on cannabis and how you utilize it in your daily life?
Literally a higher note, by the way.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a very high note. Well, so I should disclose I used cannabis every day of my career, every day, except for when it came those 2 weeks before testing and I had to stop. Right. But I just learned it's a far better medicine than most of the Western medicines out there. And it is because it fits in your endocannabinoid system. Like your body has receptors for it. So whether you use it to get high, use it to relax, CBD, CBG, your body automatically has receptors for it. And what it does for your body is it helps balance your body's natural system. So regardless of how you consume it, regardless of your reasons, that's not important to me. What's important to me is there's a plant out there, an all natural green plant that you can consume that will help you balance your own body system. And so I use it for everything. I eat it, I rub it on. I got this great eye drop that clears my eyes. I got some, skin cream that'll cure anything.
Skin cream.
But I got this amazing, it's called the Miracle, the Miracle Skin Cream. I give it to my dad, my mentor dad, because he's getting older and he gets all these sun blotches and all this crazy stuff. But what it does, it allows your skin, largest organ in your body, to heal itself by balancing what's wrong with your body. So that's, I'm a huge proponent of it. I speak on it quite often, and regardless of how you consume it, it should be said that that's just a powerful and a wonderful medicine.
All right. Well, I'm telling my mom, Frank Shamrock told me I could. I'm kidding. I'm just playing around. I like busting people.
I wanted to ask you, so like when you do consume, is it mostly like a CBD type, or is it like, does it have THC? Like, how do you still manage to go about your daily life?
Well, I don't consume much THC. And if I do, I usually do it in a soap or, the eye drops is a full spectrum product. But like, I don't need to be high. I'm like high all the time. So for me, it's about the CBD, it's about the CBG, it's about the terpenes in it and how that makes my body sort of feel. And so like if I'm worn out, if I'm tired, if I'm not, if I'm, working too hard, I'll consume a lemony terpentine type cannabis product and it lifts my spirits. If I'm not sleeping well, then I'll consume, an earthy, darky, purpley, type tea or otherwise, and I'll sleep better. So for me, my days of getting high are long past because I'm sort of in this ether of consciousness. But yeah, and everyone's got to find their own medicine because we all have a different, body. We all have a different structure. We all have a different system. So, because it's not federally legal and we can't really study it as deep as we should, I recommend you go on the journey, you try some things, you practice basically and see what your body likes and how it makes you feel.
Yeah. There's an ongoing conversation about the legalization of it in sports and the use of it in sports as being extremely important. I know the NBA is contemplating actually switching it over so that the use for the oil specifically for body treatments and things like that is it may become legal in the next couple of seasons. So I agree with you. It's probably one of the more interesting topics in sports and sports medicine to think of, because CBD has done wonders for a lot of people. I'll finish the entire interview with this final question, Frank. It's a staple of the No Good podcast to ask you this question. What is no good to you, but is good to others? Which means essentially, what do you hate that other people love?
That's a good one.
Or what do you dislike? Hate may be a strong word. Dislike.
You know what? I don't like mean people.
Okay.
Like, I think we should all be kinder to each other. And I say that from a position of power. I could beat the shit out of 99.9999% of people in this world. And the reality is, when someone's unpleasant to me, all I can think of is, gosh, that's unpleasant.
Yeah.
And the reality is I could destroy them in seconds. But to think that someone would do that to another human being, that just sucks. And that to me is no good, because we should be kind to each other. We're all the same being. We're all the same life force. And the more we share that with each other, the more we share ourselves, the more we share the things that are of value to us, like the plus equals minus, the more we share like love with each other, I think the stronger we are as the human race.
Awesome. I think that's incredible. If we had like a banner, I would say Frank Shamrock will kick your ass if you're not nice. That's what
we'll add it in post.
We'll add it in post. That's funny. Thank you, Frank. We appreciate it.
Also, just before we go, let our listeners know what's happening next, your socials, where we can all find you.
For sure. I'm at Frank Shamrock everywhere. And on YouTube, I'm the Frank Shamrock. Right. But I'm all over social media. So check me out, follow me, and hit me up.
Cool.
Awesome. Frank Shamrock, thank you for taking so much time out of your very, very, very busy schedule to come and sit down here with us at the No Good Podcast. We really do appreciate it.
My pleasure, guys.
Awesome. Until next time, it's the boys from the No Good Podcast. We'll see you guys soon.
Thanks for watching this video. If you'd like to watch other interviews like this, be sure to check out the Lingo Sports and Lingo News channels, and make sure to subscribe as well. Also, if you'd like to listen to the full interview, please go check out the No Good Podcast on Spotify and all streaming platforms.